Hello, I'm Pastor Aaron Glaeske with Redeemer Lutheran Church here in Victoria, Texas. Certainly by now you have realized we've entered the long, hot, humid days of summer, especially here in South Texas, and it can be downright brutal. But this heat had me thinking of a passage I remembered from the book of Ecclesiastes, where Solomon also talked about long, hard days in the summer sun. We read in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, beginning at verse 22, he said, "What do people get from all their toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days their work is grief and pain. Even at night their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless." A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own work. This too I see is from the hand of God, for without him who can eat or find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner he gives the tasks of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Since I worked in a shipyard in Houston, Texas, I do have an appreciation for what it means to work a long, hard summer's day in the hot Texas sun. It's hot, and it can sap your mojo and quickly destroy any desire you may have had to do just about anything. That's the power of this South Texas heat and humidity. But if this life is as good as it gets, then what good is any of that work in the end anyway? And I'd have to say, I have no idea. I think I would agree with Solomon, it would be meaningless. But even if you were able to tolerate the heat and you love working outside and sweating and you could amass a fortune for yourself, if this life is all there is, then when you die, you have to give it to somebody else who didn't work for it and who doubtless will not appreciate it. And Solomon says, that's all meaningless. But God intervened in our history to prevent us from such meaningless life and work. You see, shortly after Adam and Eve had fallen into sin, God not only promised them a Savior, but he cursed the ground so that Adam would have to work hard to make a living. But he did that for a couple of good reasons. And one is so that Adam would never fall in love with this world and the things of this world. He wouldn't grow too attached to them because they were difficult, because the sun was hot. I can attest that in my own life, that has God's intended purpose for that curse has worked very well. I am glad to know now that in Jesus, this life is not all I have to look forward to. I don't live a bad life. I have a good life, and maybe you do too. But it's still fraught with a lot of hard work, a lot of trouble, and in the end, we'll all die. And if this life is all we have, then that's all we have, and it's meaningless. But thanks to God that he intervened in our world history, that he sent his Son to set us free from this bondage to sin and guilt, to the devil, and even to death itself. When we serve him, because of all the things he has done for us, and for the new heaven and the new earth that he has prepared for us, where there will be no hard labor under a hot summer sun, then our labors are not in vain. St. Paul reminds us that because Jesus has risen from the dead and has conquered sin and the devil and death, nothing we do for him, for God, is ever meaningless. It's never in vain. God sees, God knows. So maybe you enjoy the hot Texas sun. Great. I like getting outdoors myself. There's no place else I'd rather live. But sometimes it gets a little too hot for me, and I like to go inside and enjoy the air condition. But as I do, I'd like you to remember with me that God's prepared a place for us with great air conditioning and outside events, the new heaven and the new earth he's created for us. And as we continue to live for him, our lives are far short of meaningless. They have purpose and meaning that lasts forever. God bless you as you continue to enjoy this wonderful, hot, humid South Texas weather.